So that, of course, is Michael Scott from The Office, a show I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with by now. And if you know anything about that show, you know he is absolutely the last person in the world you would want to take lessons from in etiquette. You know, he's obnoxious, he's crass, he says things that makes people cringe. You know, he's just not a guy you want to take lessons from in how to behave. And speaking of behavior, that's really all etiquette is. You've probably heard that word before and you think it sounds really dated or old fashioned, and it's like lessons from, where to put your silverware on the table. But to be clear, the word etiquette, its definition is the customary code of polite behavior in society or among members of a particular profession or group. So, to put it in more basic terms, you may refer to them as manners or social graces if you're familiar with that word.
You with that look on your face.
What look, baby?
God, you're irresistible.
Some people are just born with this gift. They can talk to anyone at any time about anything, and they're completely comfortable, and they make the person or the persons they're talking to comfortable. It's like they always seem to know how to say the right thing or to do the right thing, and they look cool while doing it.
Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
And then for some of us, the idea of socializing makes us want to jump off a bridge. Uh, you're shy, nervous, anxious, whatever you want to call it. It's just not your thing. And maybe you're one of these kind of people, you're not a social butterfly, and you're about to graduate and you're going to go out on job interviews and meet new people at school, and you're kind of nervous, which is totally understandable. But I have good news for you. Social skills are a skill that can be learned like anything else. Okay, whether you're learning to play the piano, hit a baseball, drive a stick shift, like any of these things, they can be learned. So that's what I am going to teach you today. First things first, the greeting. The handshake. The handshake is the customary form of greeting in the professional setting. And here's how you do it. Number one, as you near the person, you extend your arm, you look them in the eye, and you firmly but gently grasp their hand for a second or two, and then you let go. It's that simple. It's more about what you don't do in a handshake than what you try to do. Less is more when it comes to a handshake, especially the first time you meet a person. So, few things you don't want to do. Guys, don't try to grip a person's hand so hard that blood stops flowing to it. You know, if you're trying to show them like how confident or strong you are or something, then it kind of just comes off as insecure, and it's a rookie move. It kind of makes you look bad. Okay, so don't do that. Sweaty palms, they're a thing, especially in kind of nervous situations. If it's an interview or you're meeting a person for the first time, what I may suggest is like right before you go in or before you shake the person's hand, you kind of discreetly brush it against your pants before you shake hands with a person. Okay? Another thing you don't want to do is shake too gently. It doesn't instill a lot of confidence in the person whose hand you're shaking. Don't pump the person's hand too long, like you're a lumberjack trying to chop down a tree. Okay, it starts to get awkward and it makes the other person uncomfortable. Like I said before, just a nice, firm, quick grasp and a gentle shake will do the trick. And lastly, don't be too familiar if you haven't known the person too long. Like I said before, less is more. Don't do the double fist shake when you like use both hands, and don't turn the handshake into a half kind of bro hug with a pat on the back. Fist bumps, this thing, none of that. Now let's turn to another area where you may need some work.
Well, what's new in your life?
What's new in my life? I don't know, nothing new, sir. Just trying to keep busy, that's all. Working around, trying to keep busy. Pardon me.
Sure, it's all right.
Nothing, emphysema.
Your health is...
Now, I'll be back in New York, tomorrow night. I'll be in the club, yeah. I'll be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the club, working there, getting Dangerfields. Then I'm going up the New England way. Next Tuesday, yes, New England way. I'll be in Cohasset.
Cohasset?
Have you heard of that one?
Sure.
Yeah, that's right outside of Boston there. Pardon me. And I'll be there August. It could have been worse.
Some people are chatters, some people aren't, and that's fine, either way. But if you're not much of a talker and you come across a chatty Cathy, you don't want to seem rude and you want to be courteous, so it helps to know how to shoot the breeze a little bit. So, what we're going to talk about now are a few topics that I find just about anybody can talk about and it won't ruffle anyone's feathers. The weather. Now, it sounds lame, but the weather affects everybody and people are always remarking on it. Man, it's hot today. Man, it rained cats and dogs on the way in. I heard it's going to snow this weekend. You get the idea. Number 2, sports. Now, especially in a sports crazed town like ours, raising the subject of the Cowboys or the Mavericks, Rangers, Stars, whatever, it'll usually elicit some kind of response and is an easy way to get a conversation going. And the nice thing about it too is, in my experience at least, if the person you're talking to is not into sports, they'll let you know pretty quickly and you'll get the idea. Number 3, weekend plans. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. So either asking somebody about their plans for the upcoming weekend, or if it's a Monday, ask what they did this past weekend. It'll make you look courteous and make them do all the talking, which is nice if you're not big on small talk. Number 4, current events. Something that's going on, that's on everybody's mind. It's always something good to talk about. However, and I cannot stress this enough, you need to tread lightly when it comes to this one. Everybody can talk about the coronavirus because it's on everybody's mind and it's affecting our daily lives tremendously. What you don't want to do, unless you know the person and you share their political beliefs and you know it won't offend them, is like rag, for example, and I'm not saying this is just an example. You say something like how poor of a job the president is doing handling it, or you praise him effusively. This falls under the old saying of there are 3 things you never talk about: politics, sex, and religion. Keep. Let's talk about something else.
And Kevin had Greek food for lunch again.
So, I used to work with this guy. I worked at a call center during college. And we worked in a closed room. And he probably went to Wingstop like at least 3 times a week. Okay? And he always got the garlic parmesan. And he would bring it in our closed room and at his little desk, surrounded by people, he would eat these nasty smelling garlic parmesan wings. And then he would throw it in the trash can that was right at the end of his desk, so we would be subjected to the smell for even more hours. The moral of the story here, people, if you're going to order something that is going to have a strong smell and may not be pleasing to everybody, I would recommend eating it at the restaurant or eating it in your car, or if you have a kind of secluded break area at work, that would be good. But what you don't want to do is like eat it at your desk if you're surrounded by a bunch of people. It's just a courtesy thing. I mean, you wouldn't want someone bringing in, something really smelly, mugu gai pan, I don't know, and eating right next to you and you have to smell it. It's distracting and you're trying to work. It's a professional environment, so be conscious of what you bring to eat. It's pretty simple, folks. Table manners. You don't want to look like a caveman who hasn't eaten in 3 days when you take your lunch breaks at work. It grosses people out. So have some self awareness. Eat like a lady or eat like a gentleman. Don't smack, don't slurp, don't hunker down over your food like a starving wolf. And now, something I think we've all struggled with at one point or another. Now, I'll admit, I've been the guy who's left half empty coffee cups on his desk long enough that colonies start to grow in their remains. Keep your desk clean, people. Keep it organized. Wipe it down with some Clorox wipes from time to time. Don't leave food and drinks sitting on it forever. This not only speaks volumes about the kind of employee you are, but the kind of person you are too. And when it comes to common areas, it's even more important to be clean. Don't leave your food or trash out in the break room. Don't throw paper towels at the bathroom trash and then leave them if you miss. Because you form a reputation at work. Make sure yours is worth bragging about.
Hello?
So people are trying to concentrate at work, and it's hard to do that if you're talking loudly to a coworker or you're talking loud on the phone. And this is a special pet peeve of mine. Do not treat work like it's a rock concert, okay? That means not playing videos on your phone, listening to music at 60 decibels, that sort of thing. I mean, it's one thing if you're allowed to quietly listen to music. I mean, sure, go for it. But high school is over and it's time to be taken seriously. So there's definitely cell phone etiquette that you should be aware of at work. Um, I think the only reason you should take a call or a text in a meeting is if it's an emergency. Okay, your wife's giving birth, death in the family, that sort of thing. I see it in meetings now. I've seen it in the job I had before. People on their laptops or sending out texts, whatever. And honestly, it's not cool. You should give the person your attention who's conducting the meeting. It's the appropriate, professional, courteous thing to do. So you notice how Pam is, friendly and wants to welcome Ryan back, and he cuts her off, and then she's kind of like, what do I do now? Um, Listen, if you show someone that your phone or whatever is going on there is more important to them than giving them your attention, you will offend them. They will lose interest and they'll just, shut you out. So I know you guys are of a generation where you grew up with this technology and maybe you've never seen how people acted before. And so now it's just so commonplace that you think it's okay. But you really should look a person in the eye when you talk to them. You put away your device and you give them your attention.